What's up, my dudes? Introduction to MX Simulator. So, wanted to come in here and just make a cool little chill video, just letting some of you guys know some little tips and things that I've learned. And I know a lot of you guys gravitated towards my beginner guide video that I made for MX Simulator. A lot of you guys really enjoyed that, so I wanted to come in here and kind of expand on that a little bit. And it's really cool, the whole thought of people first getting into MX Simulator, their first experiences, and I constantly get comments and messages and stuff about people that are just starting in the game. I'm not saying I'm the greatest of all time at MX Simulator or whatever, but hopefully you can just take some little snippets, might be able to take something from the things that I'm saying, and I try to explain some things that a lot of other people wouldn't explain to you, so it's cool stuff like that, but I don't want to try to intimidate you with this gameplay. We're just going to be kind of chill riding, nothing crazy, just going to be cruising around the track. I'm doing it live. Don't have some sort of wicked flaming lap time, something pre-recorded type thing like that, so or demo that I've went in there and recording over or something. I'm just chill riding, nothing crazy. We'll just do a little double in, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to come in here and just talk about some of the things that you kind of learn and you get into when you first start playing MX Simulator. So one thing is there's a lot of dudes out there that want to act like the big dog around town. They want to act like they know everything about the game, and they want to they almost try to shoot you down. They almost try to act like, oh, you're just an MX Simulator beginner, acting like you're nobody and they're everything, right? That sort of, you'll run into quite a few people like that. I still run into them to this day. People that just act, they'll run a fast lap time in a race or something, they'll act like they're God instantly, you know, something like that. Or there's just a lot of people that get that sort of, I don't know how to explain. It's like they'll instantly think that they are some sort of magician with suspension on MX Simulator, so then they try to go around and tell everybody that they know everything about the suspension, and they know how to set up everybody's bike, and I guess you got a lot of these quote-unquote experts, professional expert MX Simulator player dudes out there that think they know everything about it and stuff like that, and I'm not saying they don't know some things about it. I'm just saying you have to be careful, especially as a beginner, because it's so easy to get caught up in that sort of, oh, well, this guy, he raced in a pro race, so surely he knows this about that, so I'm just going to listen to everything that he's saying, and then he may be following you completely down a totally different rabbit hole that you never even wanted to go into to begin with. I've actually had that happen to myself a couple times, but I've been really good at kind of keeping my own sort of my own knowledge to myself in a sense, and kind of knowing what I know and knowing what works for me, and not really letting anybody like super change my mind in that type of sense. So you have to have a certain element of that, because everybody and their grandmother is going to try to tell you how to play this game, or what's the best way to play it, or how to do it. And I'm telling you right now, I probably have the most opposite sort of like setup in the way I play it that you can possibly have. I'm the most non-cookie cutter when you talk about my like the certain like stability, different stuff like that I have. The way I have that set up on my bike, totally different than what everybody else uses in the game. I've had people tell me, I don't even know how you ride with that, Spencer. Like certain people that I used to ride with back in the day in this game and stuff, they're like, I don't even know how you ride with that. Like, I don't even know how you do it. So, you know, and that just goes to show you there is a plethora of different ways to play this game and set your bike up and do things. Don't just think just because this pro over here does it this certain way that you have to do it that way or something. Don't think like that, man. There is multiple different ways to go about doing things on MX Simulator. And sorry about me crashing a little bit. I just did a video for the arcade mode on MX Sim, did a little arcade mode challenge, so that's why I'm crashing in some of these corners, kind of weird going from arcade mode back to normal mode, because all of a sudden you're kind of just like falling over, slipping down in the corners again, so yeah, but when you first get into it, I love that thought, because there's a lot of people that are trying to get into this game, even to this day. Like, there's just more and more people every year, new people trying to get into MX Simulator. They don't really know what's going on with it. They're not really sure what's up with the game, and it's just, that's a really important thing, is to, even if you don't understand a whole lot of things about the game, don't jump to think that you have to do this or do that. You know, you can take your time with it. That's my biggest advice in this video. Take your time with learning different ways to do stuff, because if you just copy the way everyone else does their stuff, you're only ever going to be as fast as those people. You see what I'm saying? And that goes with everything in life. You've got to be able to go your own way, pave your own road, dude. Like, do your own sort of thing. You really have to do that. And even with your setup, the style you have in the game, the way you play the game, the way you set up your controller, all this little stuff in the game, you've got to be able to figure out your own way on that sense to really get your own sort of style and your own sort of speed and your own stuff that you can do in the game. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I've learned is just don't let those MX Simulator experts out there trick you into doing something that you don't really want to do or don't even need to do. Okay, so just be aware there's a lot of people out there like that, and you just got to be careful. Okay, now another little aspect is when you first get into the game, you're going to be sitting there like, well, what's the first kind of tracks I need to ride on? I got all these default stock tracks, got some of the demo tracks, you've got basically tracks that you don't really need to be riding on in the game if you actually want to progress in the game. That's kind of what it comes down to. So you're going to have to learn how to get in there and start downloading the custom tracks, because it's not just custom tracks, it's all of your years of replica tracks. That's what a lot of people don't understand. If you just sit around and ride on these demo 2012 Supercross tracks, you're not going to progress all that much in the game. It is good for beginners, the 2011, 12, and even like 13 years of Supercross tracks, because they're a little bit easier. The whoops aren't as big, but the downside of that is they are super slick. So basically, you're almost training yourself to go slower because how slick they are, because you got to go slower to not slide on these tracks. That was just the way they were built back in the day. So, but they are a good practice. But it's one of those things you have to learn the whole, like being able to go download a track off of TM Factory Racing or off of the forums. TM Factory Racing is one of the biggest websites for downloading the tracks. You can go on there. There's a little option to go to the oldest of the old tracks. You got all the AMA tracks. It's laid out pretty easily to figure out there. So you can do that, and once you learn how to do that and learn how to actually, if you're coming from consoles or something, see, that's one of the biggest tricks to coming to MX Simulator from a console is you have to learn the whole custom downloading side of it, which is not that hard once you learn how to do it. But at the beginning, it's like kind of a wall you hit there. It's like, damn, how do I actually download this? How do I do this? So there's been a lot of guides and tutorials, stuff like that out there for it. But basically, you just have to learn how to download something like WinRAR or something like that to go in there and extract the file. Very simple. You just download the unextracted file, right-click, extract here, boom, you got it. Cut it, paste it into your MX Simulator folder, and boom, you got it, just like that. But you have to have the WinRAR actually downloaded to be able to do that, or whatever kind of, there's a lot of other things out there too, I think, that can extract files and stuff. But once you learn how to do that, then you can start getting other tracks in the game. Then it becomes like a whole new world. It actually becomes more of a game in that sense. It's probably one of the most important things you need to do at the beginning is learn how to download tracks. You got to be able to do that to really get the full extent and experience of the game. And not only that, but there's so many other little things that you need to be doing at the beginning, like being able to set your graphics up properly. I know MX Simulator can be a little bit finicky with that, like turning off your actual vertical sync if you're running like NVIDIA graphics cards, because for whatever reason MX Simulator runs like shit when you got vertical sync on. Little things like that. Learn how to set up your in-game graphics better to where you don't, the game's not running like piss even when you have a good PC. But if you don't have that great of a PC, you can still play MX Simulator. That's the cool thing about it, is it can run with just about any PC out there. But just learning the track, learning how to download the tracks, learning the little stuff like that, setting up your controller right. I see a lot of setting up your controller tutorial and guides out here, and a lot of those seem to go down the road of setting up the bike like having it set up like you're playing Unleashed or Untamed or something, where you're just steering and leaning with one stick, and you're basically using A for the throttle and all this random-ass, super old, outdated shit. I don't understand why some YouTube channels try to push that sort of controller setup, you got to understand, they're trying to teach you how to set up a controller, but they're just teaching you how to set up your controller like they set up their controller. So it's not necessarily the best way to do it, right? Like if you're coming from Reflex, odds are you probably need to try to set up your controller like Reflex controls. Okay? There's a lot of people out there that do this, and I think they're making a big mistake when they go in there and try to set up their controller where all of the turning and leaning forward and backwards and all that is on one thumbstick. It makes it feel like a completely different game like that. And it's just, that's kind of outdated in my opinion, especially nowadays, 2019, doing the one stick, leaning forward, backwards, all that crap. I've just seen so many YouTubers out there that go down that road of telling you to set your bike up that way, and I can just see how that would persuade a lot of beginner MX Simulator players into setting their bike up that way, and then therefore then they learn the game that way, so then a year down the line, that's just how they've learned to play MX Simulator, and once you get to a certain point of playing it, it's hard to go back because you've learned the game that way. You've kind of basically built that mind muscle memory around that way, so it's hard to do anything different. That's what I'm saying about being careful when you just listen to these other people trying to give you advice and opinions on how to set certain things up and how to do things in the game, because once you start going down that road, it's hard to backtrack. It's hard to go backwards because you build your mind muscle memory around that sort of setup or controller setup or whatever, and then that just becomes natural and normal to you, and then you learn it that way versus like, and then at that point it's hard to go backwards. Therefore you can't just be like, oh, well, no, I just actually want to set my controller up this way after a year of playing MX Simulator or whatever. It's hard to do that, you know what I mean? But if you be a little more careful when you're listening to some of these other people and the way they're telling you to set your bike up and stuff, then you can kind of take some pieces and things that they're saying, but then still integrate and be smart and be unique and be original with the way you set it up for yourself. Okay, you be a little bit smarter on that sense and don't just take everyone's word as being exactly what you need to set your bike up for. You got to have a little bit of your own personal thinking skills and ability. God damn it, I'm going to overjump that. An ability to set it up for yourself. That way you can... You're not building something around someone else's thoughts and ideas, and then one day you wake up a year down the line like, why in the hell is my bike set up like this? I don't even like this. And then you can't really go backwards because that's the way you've learned MX Simulator, right? So that's what I'm trying to protect you from. I see a lot of that going on out there where the YouTube channel and stuff, they're telling you ways to do it, and I'm just shaking my head at it personally because that is just such an outdated way to play a motocross game nowadays with just one thumbstick. Makes no sense. So just saying, just be careful, boys. Use your brain a little bit, use your mind. All right. And one thing I wanted to go in here and say as well is it's so easy with MX Simulator to get very intimidated when you're getting into the game. Don't be intimidated, man. Everybody has to start somewhere. That's one thing I feel like a lot of people, they have trouble even starting to play MX Simulator. They have trouble even getting past that first wall of even starting to play it because they think it's so hard to play, which it is, but you don't want to think like that. You want to think more like, hey, man, I'm just getting in there playing a simulator, just trying to get a little better at it, just getting better at it, playing it as much as I can. You never want to look at it like... get too intimidated in the sense of thinking, man, these pros are so fast, I'm never going to be that fast, or that game's way too hard, or get intimidated by the suspension page and look at all that like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to set up any of that stuff. This is too crazy for me. This is too extreme of a game. It's not that crazy, dude. Once you start getting into it, it ain't that bad. I remember thinking that way at the beginning too, trust me. I remember thinking, oh my God, how does anybody set this bike up? It's very... It's just intimidating. I mean, that's the only way to explain it. It's very intimidating coming from an arcade motocross game into a game like this, and just the plethora of suspension settings, and it's like there's so many different knobs to tweak, you don't even know where to start, and but you just don't want to worry about that when you're first getting into the game. Just have fun with it. Just play it. Learn some things here and there. Don't take everybody's word is it being, the gospel. Like, you got to be a little careful, but just have fun with it. Just play the game, learn your cornering, learn some of your standard stuff that you got to change towards the beginning, like turning your arcade mode off, learning how to adjust your stability. Some of your first things to learn. Don't try to adjust things too quickly. You don't want to try to go in there and get a pro setup your first day playing MX Simulator. You're going to have a really bad experience because you're not going to be able to turn or steer or move at all because everything's way too sensitive, because it's somebody that sat there and played the game every day for like a year plus that has that sort of setup. So you got to be real careful about that. A lot of people just want to say, hey, go plug my setup in, dog. You'll be James Stewart in a day on the game. But that never happens. Literally never happens that way. I promise you it doesn't. There is no easy trick, easy day one, plug these numbers in and you're going to be God at the game. It doesn't work like that, or everybody would be God at the game. It's very simple, math there. Like, if it was that easy, everybody would be that good, and they're not that good. Okay, there's still a lot of people that play this game for a really long time and never really do good in a pro race. Hell, I've never even gotten a podium in an actual real pro race. And I've put a lot of time into this game. I have gotten some top fives in actual main events. Obviously, I've won LCQs, and I think I've won some heat races and stuff like that. But I'm talking like, main events and stuff. So it just goes to show you how hard it actually is. If it was that easy, then you would have 300 people trying to qualify, and everybody would have the exact same lap time, up there at the top, and that wouldn't even be racing anymore. So it's not that way. It's not that easy. Now, there are certain little suspension tricks here and there when you start getting really good at the game. I'm not trying to say there just isn't. There certainly is little things that can work better for you, but you have to play the game for so long before you even start to learn that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just learn it instantly and on your first day or first week or first month playing the game and expect it to really help you, because it's not really going to help you that much. You have to learn the game first. You have to learn the gameplay, how that reacts, like controller, mind muscle memory, what you're seeing on the screen, reaction time, leaning, all that. You have to learn that before you really start getting into anything else too hardcore. This stuff I'm teaching you right here is golden. Okay, I'm telling you, bro, this is all stuff that I've learned from literal experience of actually going through it. All right? I don't even know if we're going the right damn way on this track. Been a long time since I rode on some of these old ones. But, yeah, basically what I'm trying to say here is I've been through all of these situations that I'm talking to you about. So, literally, like, it's not just somebody just giving you some information that doesn't really know. Like, this is all coming from a guy that got into MX Simulator knowing nothing, like what most of you guys are coming into MX Simulator as. Came from playing Reflex every day for 4 years straight. That was my pre-MX Simulator, skill. So I was really, really good at Reflex, like top tier, really played Reflex a lot, learned all the systems to that, and it was still a very big leap to MX Sim. It was still a very big jump. Now, I did play a lot of first person on Reflex, so I think that helped the transition of kind of going directly into first person on MX Simulator. I mean, I've never really played MX Simulator in third person, even from the beginning. I basically always played it in first person, therefore extending that feeling of being like I was on a real dirt bike, like, oh my God, this is crazy, bro. If I'd have been in third person on some of my first experiences on MX Simulator, it wouldn't have felt the same. It wouldn't have gave me that same, like, this is like a real life dirt bike feeling on it. So, if you're trying to get the real simulator experience out of a simulator, the whole reason why you're playing a simulator, it'd probably be best to go in there and at least attempt to try to play it in first person, because that's kind of the whole point to it. You know what I'm saying, dude? I mean, like, it's just one of those things, you got to come to that realization. A lot of people hop into third person off the bat because they've never even really played in first person on anything before. So then it's like, they think, oh man, if I get in here on third person, maybe it'll be a little easier. But if you learn the game in third person, just going back to what I was saying before about the whole thing, the way you learn the game, it's hard to go backwards once you learn it a certain way. So if you learn it in third person, it's going to be a lot harder to go in there a year down the line and then try to learn it in first person when you've learned it in third person. You see what I'm saying? So that's something to always keep in mind. What you want to try to do the most long-lasting, long-term type stuff from the beginning, because it's going to make it a lot harder to change that down the line once you've learned your mind, muscle memory, and your ways of playing the game. So, but just, don't get too intimidated. Don't get in too of a rush on trying to get fast at the game. I know it can be very easy to kind of get going down that road, and I tried to kind of just go slow in this gameplay, not just kind of mess around, not really try to ride too hard, not try to. I know when you see some of my gameplay, it can be like, oh my god, I can't even watch that. Like it's just retarded, like ridiculous. He's just hitting crazy quad whip, 300-foot jumps, like stuff like that. So I'm trying to bring it down a notch. Just keep it chill in this video, not ride too crazy, have some wrecks. Okay, if you fall down, you're going to fall down a lot on MX Sim. It's literally going to be, I remember that whenever I first got into MX Sim, I was like, is it really this hard? Like, is it really like so hard that you just fall down in a corner, like every corner for the first day and a half? Yes, it really is that hard, especially if you're on a keyboard like I was. It really is that hard, dude. So don't get that sort of thought like, man, I just suck at this. I can't play it. I'm falling down in every corner. It's going to be a long experience, bro. So buckle up for the ride, because it's going to be a long journey of learning the game and getting good at it. It's not like a arcade motocross game where you just hop in there on day one and boom, you're amazing. Like, you can't do that with MX Simulator. You literally just cannot do it. It's impossible. You can't do it. I'm telling you right now, you cannot do it. And I think some of those people that try to rush their way to the top or buy their way to a top, in the sense, like basically trying to have a buddy that has this real good setup, or whatever you want to call a real good setup, right? They try to get on there and ride with his controller on his setup while he's teaching them how to do it. That's certainly a way to learn the game, but I'll tell you right now, like I said before, it's going to make you go down this cookie cutter road of you're learning the game how this guy's telling you how to play the game. Whereas I think the best way to do it is learn the game how you learn the game, okay? You've got to have a little bit of your own self-learning, self-teaching. There has to be some of that somewhere, or you're going to have a hard time with this game. Because when your buddy leaves and you're sitting there without him, and he leaves, and not able to sit there and tell you how to play, and he takes his controller with him, and now you've got to start over with a whole new controller, and you got to learn how to set up your controller right, and all this crazy stuff, and then you got to try to remember what his setup was, and then if a suspension change happens to the game, and then all the setups are changed and jacked up, then you don't have that anymore, and then you didn't learn how to set up the bike and do different things, because you didn't learn the game on your own. You had somebody teach and tell you how to do every little thing. So then therefore you don't have that sort of like let me see how to explain it, that sort of ability to play the game, set up the bike, do everything like that, etc. You don't really have that ability when everyone else teaches you how to do everything in the game. So that's a very, very smart tip right there, is you have to kind of just learn it on your own to a certain extent. It's okay to take some tips here and there, but I think a lot of people take too many. They take too much from somebody else, and then therefore they can never break out of that box. They get put in a box, basically. You get put in that box, and then you're only as fast as that person that taught you how to play the game, because you're only, oh my god, dude, some of these stock tracks, they're slicker than snot, bro. Got some of the weirdest track layouts ever, but you gotta love them, man. They're a classic. So been a long time since I rode on this puppy. I remember racing on this way back in the day. This was fun, man. These are some fun times on these old tracks, like before you really know the game and stuff. That's cool, because once you start learning it, then you got to be fast, then you got to pay attention, then you got to do all this shit. It's fun. Enjoy your first times on MX Simulator, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. When I'm saying don't take it too serious, too quick, enjoy the learning experience, Enjoy the time where you get to just go in there and have fun learning a simulator and progressing at a simulator. That's a whole fun and experience to the game in itself. Like a lot of times they say the journey is better than the destination or whatever, and it certainly, I can agree with that to a certain extent for MX Sim. Like, it's a lot of fun just learning and progressing in the game and going from from being not fast at all, being a nobody, being a literal beginner in the game, and then working your way up to that novice speed, and then working your way up to that amateur speed, and then trying to work your way up to the pro speed and all that. It's a whole experience in itself, so you don't want to rush that. You want to take your time with it. You want to really enjoy it, and don't try to take it too serious too quick. And you'll get a lot more out of the game in that sense. I feel like you'll get a lot more of a fun time out of the game, and it'll teach you a lot in that way. That's what I'm trying to get. That's some of the biggest things I've learned with not only MX Simulator, but just everything in life. The more you do it on your own, the more you try to self-teach yourself and learn it on your own, it allows you to see the full spectrum of things. When someone is telling you how to do it, it seems like it puts your brain in this very closed-off state of mind because you're only seeing it from basically their eyes. But when you go in there and try to learn it on your own, you see all these new like trial and error things that you wouldn't have seen beforehand. You see all these new ways to go about doing things that there's no way you could have if someone else would have just sat there and tried to streamline teach you how to do something, right? So it's that ability of learning how to learn it on your own is such a big aspect and thing that I've learned with MX Simulator. It's crazy, man. I mean, it's everything to it, really. When you get to a top tier level, I mean, to really start breaking through that top 5 in a pro race, getting podiums in a pro race, main event, like you're going to have to start doing some shit that no one else has ever done before if you really want to be that good. You're going to have to really understand the game to a deep level. It's not going to be just as simple as, Joe Blow coming over here and teaching you some of the little things he's learned and then trying to push you into that. It's not going to work that way. So you got to learn some of this stuff on your own, man. Man, that going to that arcade mode and then turning that back off, that screwed me up in all kinds of ways here, dude. Good Lord. You just got to use your own mind. If that's the biggest piece of advice, that would be what I would give to you. And I guess when you first start, kind of a weird little video here, but I'm telling you like deep stuff that a lot of people just would not tell you. But going into some more standard things, when you first get into the game, you might think, well, what kind of tracks do I need to be riding on? What I need to ride on. You might get a little intimidated by the supercross tracks at the beginning, so you might think, oh man, I need to go to the motocross tracks. I mean, honestly, I think your best bet if you're trying to learn the game and get good at leaning and all that as quickly as you can, not that you're rushing it, but you're trying to learn the game pretty quick. Oh God. Then your best bet is going to be to get on some of those easier supercross tracks, in my opinion, because it's just going to make everything happen a little bit faster. Because you're going to learn how to lean quicker, because most of the motocross tracks are pretty tame as far as jump-wise and not as many corners as a supercross track. So if you'll get on there on some of those like 2011, 12 supercross AMA replica tracks in the game, you'll learn the game a lot quicker in that sense. You'll learn your steering, leaning, because you'll learn how to turn sharp in the supercross corners, but the supercross tracks won't be so hard that they're like impossible, like how some of the if it was your first day on MX Simulator trying to learn how to ride on one of the more modern supercross tracks, it'd be damn near impossible. So that's kind of why I think a lot of people get that thought in their head like, dude, I can't even ride supercross. I'm not even going to try to do that right now. I'm just going to start on motocross. But if you'll start on some of the easier supercross tracks, you'll actually end up learning the game quicker than you'd think because like I'm saying, you're turning, like constantly turning, you learn how to actually get power out of a corner to be able to double something. So you learn how to sort of start getting power out of the corner and getting traction out of the corner and learning how to hook and actually lean on the bike. Whereas on a motocross track, really, it's not so much as much like that if you're learning the game like that. But you can learn the game on motocross tracks. I'm not saying you can't. I just think the smarter way to do it is learn it on some of the easier supercross tracks, and then once you've learned that, then you move your way into really riding on the motocross tracks and stuff. Once you've learned how to get power out of the corner, it's going to make the motocross tracks seem like super easy once you learn some of those supercross tracks. So it's cool when you do that, but then you can start, you learn how to kind of go through whoops, small whoops on some of the early supercross tracks, and that's going to help you learn roughness before you ever even get on roughness by doing that. So there's all these little things that riding on some of those early on supercross tracks helps you with so much from the beginning and just teaches you a lot in the game versus getting on a motocross track. Like if you learn the game on a motocross track, especially some of the more easy ones, man, I'm over jumping shit all day long. it's not going to, like, if you learn how to ride on a motocross track, it's not going to teach you how to double out of a corner on a supercross track, or hit a triple on a supercross track, or hit whoops on a supercross track. You see what I'm saying? It's not really going to carry over like that. But if you learn how to ride on a supercross track, that will carry over to a motocross track. The only difference is you're just really going faster, and the roughness is small, or smaller on most motocross tracks. So you're just having to kind of get that sort of screen shake effect and learn how to ride with that, and then learn the higher speeds and learn some ruts. That's pretty much all you got to learn on motocross tracks. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is you can still get around a motocross track if you've learned the game on supercross tracks, but you can't even really get around a supercross track if you learn the game on motocross tracks. So it's just a smarter thing to do that way. But yeah, man, I could drag this video out for literally 10 years of like early on stage stuff to learn about MX Sim, but it's just one of those things, man. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's a big thing I think a lot of people don't understand. They hear one way to go about like setting their bike up and go about doing things in the game, and they think that's the only way to do it, and it's not. I promise you it's not. There is multiple different ways. There's multiple different ways to do everything in this game. You get multiple different ways to build tracks. You don't even have to build it in the actual in-game editor. You can build everything in Photoshop if you want to. Multiple different ways to set your bike up to make it work for you. Don't just think just because this one guy has it set up this one way, that's the only way that you can set your bike up in the game to go fast. That's not the truth at all. Multiple different ways to do that. There's multiple different ways to download tracks, multiple different ways to do anything and everything in the game, man. And I guess when you first start on there, you want to learn what kind of bike you're going to be on and what kind of dynos you're looking at, because that can be a little confusing at the beginning. So basically, you're going to want to go in there and figure out where to download the newer dynos if your version doesn't have it in it yet. Which it should if you have the newest update and the newest snapshot, stuff like that, which all snapshot is just basically like a patch. It's just like basically it's another update for the game. It's not called update. So don't look at snapshot like what the hell is that? That's really confusing. It's just another update, man. That's all it is. It's not a main update. It's just more of like a 0.1 or 2 update. It's like a smaller update. So as long as you go in there and get the newest snapshot, which is going to be right there at the top of the forums, general forums, new snapshots, where you got to be real. You got to start learning how to really start coexisting with the forum page of MX Simulator. That's going to be really important once you start getting into the game. You need to learn how to go in there. You're going to learn a lot of new stuff about the game that way. I know it can be like, oh my God, a forum page. It's going to take me 10 years to read through some of this stuff, but there's a lot of important stuff on there as far as like updates. That's where you're going to find all your updates, all your new bike dyno type stuff going on, all that type of stuff, some problems that an update may have, or how to fix this problem or fix that problem you may be having. You can actually email JLV, which is the creator of the game, if you're having some really big problem that you can't find the solution to. He will eventually respond to you. So there's that. If you want to go down that road, you can find all that on the forums if you want to get in there. But you just want to become familiar with the forums. What the hell is that lag? That's going to be real smart doing that. And it's just one of those things. You just have to learn it, man. You just have to learn what bike you want to start on. Do you want to start on a 250? Do you want to start on a 125? Do you want to start on a 450? What do you want to do? And then which dyno do you want to run? The like quote unquote fastest dyno changes damn near every year, and now everyone's riding on different dynos. So there's no like clear cut winner in that sort of sense. That was a little tongue twister there, boys. So, you can ride on the 2017 FC, 2018 CR 450, 2016 KTM. All those are good choices. I don't know what the best is on the 250 right now. I don't know if it's either like the FC or the KTM. One of those on the 250. The RM 125, I will say that's wicked fast 125. It's hands down the fastest 125. So if you're trying to do that, you probably want to be on the RM. And yeah, just it's just a learning experience, man. It's just you just got to kind of learn the environment. You have to learn the elements and the atmosphere of MX Simulator. It's a whole like kind of experience in itself, just learning some of that stuff. But once you do, it's just becomes secondhand nature to you, man. I mean, I can't believe when I look back to this day, all the stuff I used to worry about and like think that it was impossible. Like getting into the pro racing, I remember thinking, man, this is like I don't think I can ever do this. This is too extreme for me. This is crazy. And then before I knew it, I was on there qualified in my first pro race ever. Boom, just like that. So don't think that things are impossible. You know, it's very easy to kind of go down that road. You think that things are too hard, too impossible. You can't do this. You can't do that. Fuck all that bullshit. Just do it, man. Just get in there. All you can do is get in there and start on it. You got to just start trying things, start doing things. And once you do it, you'll be happy that you did. Once you get a year down the line of playing MX Sim, you'll be like, wow, this is awesome right here. If you really get in there and fully try to experience the entire game to its entirety, you know, and start learning things and start progressing in the game, it's a full experience, man. So either way, I hope some of this little advice stuff, introduction advice, can help some of you guys out. I know it can be a very tough thing getting into MX Simulator, so I want to try to make more videos like this to help you guys out. If you have any questions, you can hit me up down below in the comments. I'll try to answer the most of them in this video as I can, and try to help you out with some stuff. But yeah, it's just, it can be difficult getting into something like this, but I'm telling you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I was as console boy, like never really played PC games before MX Simulator as you could possibly get, and here I am, like, you know, pretty savvy on what I'm doing, you know, pretty knowledgeable on what I'm doing with the game now, and how to download tracks, how to make tracks, how to do all this stuff. Like, I've learned all that. So if I can do it being a full-blown console player, not knowing anything about PC games, then coming to a simulator, if I can do it, you can do it, man. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.